Spoiler alert. I mean, honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Go away, Ood. Where did you find that thing, anyway? It's an old phone, isn't it? On a junk heap? And now what? You're just wandering the forest with it?
I have a call for you.
It's not even plugged in. What?
People of the universe, please attend carefully. The message which follows is of vital importance to you all. We present to you a case study of one of the most dangerous minds in the universe. A history of the lives and times of the renegade Time Lord known as the Master.
The Master. Call me Master.
The choice is simple. Join us and continue listening, or face total annihilation.
Listen.
They are the Master, and you will obey them.
You will obey me.
Please attend carefully. Hello and welcome to Please Attend Carefully, the Doctor Who podcast about the most magisterial of malefactors. I'm Ciarán Moffatt.
And I'm Amber Patrick.
And each week we bring you a chapter from the lives and times of the renegade Time Lord, known universally as the Master. This week we will be looking at The Master of Callous, a 2018 audio box set written by James Goss and Guy Adams. Amber, tell us what it's about.
Well, it's about Elliot King as the owner of a Sueño mine in a human colony on the planet Callous. It brings him nothing but trouble as the governor, Tramon, does everything she can to cripple him with debt. Elliot's daughter Cassie is forced to take over the mine and seeks to make crucial changes alongside her wife Miranda for the better of the colony. Meanwhile, their Ood workers are being influenced by an outside telepathic force and being driven mad. The arrival of a kindly old man with superior knowledge in all fields seems to spell an end to all their problems. Or so they think.
Right. I like an Ood.
You like an Ood?
I like an Ood.
Do you like an Ood with a phone call for you?
Yes. I have a call for you.
One day you will hear it. And you will obey.
So the Master is not in the first one as much.
No.
So this is a 4-episode box set. First 2 written by James Goss, second 2 written by Guy Adams. So the first one we come across, as you said, King. And this planet is called Callous, literally like a hard bit of skin. And he's trying to get the mines working. He's being extorted by the governor.
Yeah, he's having a real hard time of it.
Yeah.
He's had to send his wife away for medical treatment and he sent his daughter away for schooling.
Yeah. So I suppose we should start. The Ood play a huge part in this.
Yes.
So for the first part, there's just an Ood wandering around with a phone, just like an old rotary phone. And it just keeps ringing. It's like, I have a call for you.
It's not plugged into anything.
Nope.
And no one knows where it's got it from.
It torments King for about 10 years, isn't it? He doesn't touch it for 10 years. And then when he finally picks it up, the Master's on the other end.
Yeah.
Elliot King?
Yes. Hello?
My deepest sympathy on the death of your wife. I'm so sorry she died in such agony. Yes, she did.
I think it's a great reoccurring thing with Derek Jacobi's audios in that he isn't always front and center. It's about him. They very cleverly put him in a position of it's unnerving in the background, sort of. You know he's there and the threat is lingering and you want to warn the characters, but you can't, and he's just waiting.
Well, this is the thing about this story. It is a chessboard. And he, over the course of this story, manages to get rid of all of the pieces so that he can just walk across the board.
Yep.
Uninterrupted. That's his whole game, is to get rid of all of the pieces so that he can just casually walk in. I chose this story because I wanted something to exemplify Derek Jacobi's War Master, something that really shows off exactly who he is. And, this is the second audio box set they did with him. And I think it shows amazingly who this master is.
Yeah, I think they do a fantastic job of almost by omitting him from 50% of the story, his presence looms even worse over the entire story in that he's there, but we don't see him or hear him. The writing is just fantastic how they capture that mood of his. So threatening, so malicious in the background.
You should have listened. You should have obeyed. I am the...
And every time that he comes up, you get the feeling that he is in total control of every situation. I mean, we'll get to it later. There is a scene in the 4th episode, I believe, where he's being tortured.
Yeah.
And even though he's being tortured, he's in total control of the situation.
Yeah, the governor comes in to try and bully him, but he's having none of it. And he just gives off this air of like, it doesn't matter if you're torturing me. I'm still getting what I want. You haven't won here.
Oh, you're going for the cattle prod, aren't you? Well, you could be a bit more original. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
The only thing I need to know is where the Sueño is, and you're going to tell me.
Am I?
Yes. Even if I have to blunt every knife I own.
Really? What fun.
So yeah, there's this theme of he's guiding things from the background. The phone, he tells people what to do. We hear some conversations, and there are some that are just sort of hinted at, like Herschel. You get the feeling that he's being controlled by the master from, like, there's a bit where he comes back on thing. He says, I was taking a call. And you just go, oh.
Yeah, you know that something's up. Again, this one also plays into what we talked about with some of the other masters in that he is using a extra race of people, or an extra race of aliens to do his work in this. In it's the Ood. And the Ood are quite hard done by. He is 100% just controlling them.
It makes it really chilling, doesn't it? Because, the Ood are used to mine this stuff called Sueño, which is, it is used in starships to
like starship navigation systems and all.
Yeah, to connect the person's mind to the ship. But it has an awful effect of sending people mad. So they use Ood to mine it. And so that's why the Ood are on this planet. But he does have this sort of hypnotic control over the Ood.
Yeah.
They just randomly throughout the whole story in this really sort of horror movie way. It's like, I am the...
Yes.
I am the...
That's
and
the first.
Will.
That's our first way of knowing that his presence is being felt. Is that the Ood speak?
Yep.
His iconic phrase. So you know that it's him that's controlling them, because the characters are oblivious to that. They think the Sueño and is it the what is it, the dampeners?
Oh yeah, the dampeners. The Ood were.
They think that there's a fault in the dampeners that they're wearing, and they think it's the Sueño that's driving the Ood mad. But we, the listener, know better than that.
It is incredible how much control he seems to wield from such a distance.
I am the, and you will obey. Obey.
The first episode is all about the problems with King and his, this settlement. He's being extorted. His wife is sick and she's been sent away. He sent his daughter with her.
He has no help. He has one friend, seemingly Jacques,
Yep.
that's trying to help guide him through this. But he's just, nothing's going right. Whenever he maybe seems to get a foot up, he's slapped with more tax.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a call for you, Elliot King.
Not now. Why have you haunted me all these years? Why?
To help.
I think we'll get into a bit later, but all of the characters, bar one, are pretty morally dubious in this story, which I think they kind of needed for a first story where the master really packs a punch.
Yeah, I think because the setting is Callous. It's this human colony on this planet.
It's like it's analogous to the Old West, a mining town in the Old West.
And they just don't have a foothold really in anything. They're all just trying to survive. You get the feeling they've probably spent all their money to move to this colony in hopes of it being profitable.
And they're being completely extorted, and the stuff is so hard to get out of the ground, and if you can get it out of the ground, it poisons you.
Yeah. And the government, well, I say that, the governor and she's got security that she calls it, but really it's just...
It's a protection racket.
Yeah. Nothing can come in and nothing can come out without being searched, and they just confiscate it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you can imagine King running this place and just being constantly, over the space of, we're saying 10 years here, like his wife has declined to the point where she has died and he wasn't there for her because he can't leave the planet. Otherwise the governor will
swoop in and just take it all. Yeah.
And so he's lost so much and he's given up so much trying to get the mine working, barely keeping ahead because the money he has to keep paying arises and rises.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sunk cost fallacy in that he should just leave. Like Cassie even says, I think at some point, just give it up.
Well, he says at one point, I think he says he should have just given up years ago. And so he's at the point where all of this has happened and this phone has been ringing on and off the whole time. And he answers the phone and it's the Master. And the Master knows more than he reasonably should.
Yeah.
And you're not quite sure whether he's made these things happen or whether he's just watched and waited for them to happen on their own. So he says to King that his wife died and that the governor intercepted all money and aid to his wife. So his wife died incredibly painfully.
Yeah, it was pointless sending her away in the end.
Yep. So the Master just calmly tells him the facts, just shows in a harsh light everything that has happened. And then, of course, we cut away from that and the Ood is standing with the phone and Jacques comes up and says, "Do you have a call for me?" And the Ood says, "No, not yet."
Yeah, it's really ominous because we don't see the Master, but he knows all these things about everyone. So the question is like, where is he? Is he watching them? Is he on this planet? Is he somewhere else? And it never tells us and we never find out. So it's just this creepy, like he's watching them somehow. Is it through the Ood? We don't know.
Yeah. So of course, after the phone call with King, it is suggested to us that he talks King into committing suicide.
Yes.
That is just laid out in front of us.
I had a call for Mr. King.
I see.
He took it some hours ago. I am waiting until he has a reply.
What kind of a reply were you hoping for?
That one.
Elliot!
King left everything to his daughter Cassie.
Which is weird in that he was always tormented by this. So what do? Hand it off to your daughter to torment her.
Exactly. I feel like it was probably one of those things. You get the idea that the Master's trying to sort of conjure this image like, you gave her nothing, so you might as well give her what you can give her.
Yeah.
And so Callous is suddenly in control of Cassie, who has her wife Martine.
Yeah, and we also find out that Cassie has not been studying what she said she was studying to her father. She's been studying mining engineering.
Yes.
So she shows up with a degree in mining engineering, ready to tackle the mine.
And geology.
Yes.
Like double degree. And so, the governor thinks she can take control of it, but Cassie is determined to get the mine going.
You've been cut off from all sorts of developments over the last few years. Dad was always starting things and never finishing them. His problem with the mine is that he wasn't an expert and didn't have a hope of becoming one, or getting one to come live here. Well, I am an expert, and I tell you, I know exactly how to work the mine.
This sort of period of 20 years happens on the planet trying to get it going. And then the phone rings for Cassie. And it's the Master calling himself
Mr. Ormond.
Mr. Ormond, yes. And so then starts the next episode where we're in a sort of golden age for Callous. It's now a spaceport.
Time jumps.
But not by much. I reckon it's only a year. So 20 years, there's nothing happening. And then in a year, time jumps. And we find out that Mr. Ormond has been on this planet helping Cassie and Martine. He replaces someone's lung or something.
Yeah, he seems to be an expert in, I think they say, a lot of things.
Yeah, he's basically playing the role of the doctor.
Which is a recurring theme throughout his audios of seemingly showing up and doing...
what the doctor would do.
Yeah. Which is fun, but I think that's the thing I love about all these audios is every single time you're like, is this the one where he's good? Is this the one where he decides to do the right thing? Oh no, he's killed everyone.
I think what it is it's he's always bad, and so you have to sit there in horror.
Yeah.
Knowing that the people are trusting him. It's just like it's the old stereotype of like watching a horror movie. It's like, no, don't go through the door.
Yeah, I love that the two perspectives we've just revealed of ourselves of how we listen to it. You listen to it in horror, knowing that he's going to murder them. I hold on to hope that this is the time when he's going to finally do the good thing, and I'm always disappointed, and you're always justified.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Sure, yeah.
Own your actions. When the killing starts, it will be your finger on the trigger, not mine. Every man, woman, and child that dies out there today dies because of you. Enjoy it.
So the Ood are mining the Sueño, and they find a vein of like super Sueño, like super concentrated stuff.
The best that's ever been found that they didn't know was there. And there's also the whole thing of the whole time the governor knows how profitable and how good everything's going, and she's trying to weasel her way in to take it from them and get in there.
You hate the governor.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one of the great things about this story is you're listening to horrible things happening to people, but they're not happening to the person you want it to happen to.
Yeah.
Which says a lot about me, I suppose. But yeah, no, Governor Terramon is just an awful person who is entirely in it for herself, and she has no qualms about it. Like, she's fully aware. Like, she stops playing games.
Yeah.
And she goes, look, we both knew what our roles were. We both understood, like, that's just how life works.
Yeah, I think in a way you're rooting for Jacobi to help them at least conquer the governor.
Yes.
However he does it, you're hoping that he's at least gonna... Because we also don't know his motivation in this, because we are basically approaching this from the perspective of Cassie and Elliot, in that we don't know who Ormond is, really, because we haven't had a scene where the Master has told us what his plan is. We don't know what he's doing here. He clearly wants something, the Sueño, but we don't know what for, we don't know why. Like, it's a mystery to us, the listener. So all we can do is sit there and hope that he's maybe going to help the miners defeat the governor in some way, but
at the same time, it's, as I said, he is playing a game of chess. He's playing both sides against each other.
Yeah.
So that he can clear the board.
And the Ood are all his little pawns.
You know, for an essential peaceful race, they're quite terrifying when they turn. Interesting, really. I dare say there's something obvious about repressed anger.
So, Ood, I think we need to talk quickly before we carry on with the story. We need to talk quickly about the Ood. The Ood are a constant presence, as I was saying to you. Ood are this sort of, like, people talk about, say, the Weeping Angels as being like one of the most endearing of New Who characters. I swear, the Ood have been in more stories, and they're just ubiquitous at this point. They're just there. It's just like, oh, it's an Ood. Like, it's as if Ood have always been here, and we now just Ood are everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is the character's undoing in this story, is that they don't think much of the Ood, so they don't consider that that's how the Master has all his power in the background, is through these workforce that no one's even looking at. No one even suspects that that's how he's doing all this.
Exactly, because like they used Ood before. They say in the story, like, they used Ood to try and mine it before, and the Ood went insane. And so the forest is full of mad Ood that might kill you. It also talks quite a lot about people eating Ood.
Yeah, that was really...
It's very uncomfortable, isn't it?
Unsettling. Like, this story is just... These are a slave race. The Ood are slaves. They are food. It's awful, everything about it, and it's so sad to listen to. But he invents these dampeners, or he makes them better, that allows them to mine. He being the Master.
Yes, exactly. So they are able to mine the Sueño without any ill effects, but also I think those dampeners also allow him greater control of the Ood, which is an interesting juxtaposition. Talking about, I mean, I dislike talking about slaves, but the Ood, as they say in the story, are like a slave race, and the whole master-slave relationship that they're trying to highlight there.
It's weird because they are slave, but then we do get some very endearing names for the Ood.
Yes.
Cassie names them alongside Martine. So just a couple that I really liked. Strudel.
Yep.
They have Drude, Jude, Ermintrude.
Yes, Ermintrude, yes.
And Dude.
Dude, yes, I remember Dude.
But then the Master has two Oods called William and Mary. He's quite got the memo about the pun.
No, well, William and Mary were King and Queen of England.
Yeah.
Yes. What happens to William and Mary is
Awful.
it is awful. Like, they find this super sueño and they like mine it all, and of course the governor is coming to try and take it away from them. So the master and Martine take off and they leave the Ood, and Martine said, well, why not the Ood? And the master said, they can look after themselves. One of them immediately gets shot
Yeah.
because he's holding a phone. He's holding the phone.
And then the other one, they're like, you got a gun? And he's like, no, it is blasting powder. It just explodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we get to the end of this episode and you go through your death count, I shudder to think how many Ood die. And it is a recurring theme of Ood stories that Ood should matter, but they don't.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem to be, no story tackles really solving that issue.
Yeah. I hope they one day tackle it on Doctor
Free
Who.
the Ood.
Free the Ood. Yeah, exactly.
Even these dampers shorten their lifespans.
Oh, don't get all Ood rights on me.
This is the first time we've actually tackled
A sound.
a big
yeah.
Finish story. Yeah, let's go into that. Like, as you and I have said before, the average Doctor Who fan, if they're just like, oh, I wish there was more of X, the answer is Big Finish.
Yeah, like I saw a post on Tumblr that was like, oh, I wish Jo Grant had met a modern day Doctor or modern day Master. And you're like, she has.
Yeah.
Surprise. Like, you could see that, yeah, there's more stuff to that. I think, yeah, I see a lot of people who, and I absolutely understand, the price point is a thing. If you don't have the money to spend on these audios, then yes, I completely understand that that's the biggest thing gatekeeping people from these stories. If
they're worth the money.
If you don't know and you're listening to this, there's actually a whole bunch on Spotify for free.
Yes,
so you can go listen to them on Spotify. But they're fantastic. Like, you are the one who introduced me to Big Finish, and I was so thankful because suddenly I had so much extra master content I could listen to.
Big Finish is the reason I got into audio. It is the reason that I do podcasting. It is the reason that I do sound engineering. I love it. And it did such a good job of keeping Doctor Who alive in the period where no one was doing anything with it.
Yeah. It also allows them, they seem to get a lot more freedom within the audios than they do in the shows because it's, I guess, less mainstream. But these master stories where suddenly he can win, the Doctor isn't in all of them. So the Doctor doesn't have to be front and center and winning.
Yeah.
So the Master can win. So that opens up a whole different branch of storytelling.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have combinations of characters. We'll get to it, but we get Ten and the War Master doing a story together. And we also get to see gaps filled in. Like, they can show him being resurrected by Gallifrey to fight in the war.
Yeah.
Which isn't territory the show would go back to focus on because it's not Doctor content.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're incredible. That's all I have to say. And you should at least try and listen to some if you haven't listened to some already.
Absolutely. Their current release schedule is basically designed for you to go, who do I want to listen to? Do I want to listen to 8th Doctor stories? Fine, there are all the 8th Doctor stories. I can pick something from there. And that's the way it's set. But like, even just their random side content, like the years that Rory spent guarding the Pandorica. There's an audio series about that. There's an audio series about Donna Noble being kidnapped by aliens while she's on Earth. There's a story about Rose Tyler trying to get back from the parallel universe. Also, Bernice Summerfield, who, if you're only a new Who fan, or even if you're a classic Who fan that just only watched TV series, if you don't know who Bernice Summerfield is, one of the best characters this universe has ever created.
We're not sponsored by Big Finish. We're not being paid by them, but we just love them.
I would like to work for them.
Consider this podcast Ciarán's resume.
Big Finish, for the love of stories. Okay, so I want to talk about the Master, the way he deals with people in this story, because it's very interesting because this is probably the oldest that the Master has been.
Yeah.
He plays the little old man.
Yeah, draws people in.
Like, he plays a clown at one point, doesn't he? He's just like, oh, I've still got my makeup on. I was doing a clown for a children's party.
And you're like, oh, wow. In that moment of being the clown, there was no ulterior motive. It's long game.
Yeah.
It's all long game.
He's just amusing himself while he waits for this to all pan out.
Yeah, he has to kill some time, so he...
Better than killing people, I suppose.
Yeah, it really adds to the threatening aura of it all. You know, him not being there, and then now he is here, but he's in disguise. This is one of his disguises, but he doesn't even need to be in disguise. No one here knows who he is.
Yeah.
So he's calling himself this old man.
It's interesting, and you wonder one of the questions that needs to be like that this story leaves you is how much did he have control over? One of the big points is he uses an old space yacht to get the Sueño off planet with Martine. Now, that is a space yacht that Elliot King was doing up, that he found just randomly lying around. Did the Master leave it there so that it could then be used later?
Yeah, there's all these questions that we just have no answers to, which just, again, are helping to build the aura. Because, you know, they're building it through audio, so they can't leave us any visual hints. It's all got to be inferred in the storytelling, which is what makes Big Finish things so powerful.
Yep.
Just the pure audio storytelling.
Yes, and it's beautifully done.
How did you get this yacht past my security patrols?
She was already inside them. Someone abandoned her in the dockyards beyond the asteroid belt. Couldn't afford to get her repaired.
So, in the third part of this story, we kind of take a break from the Master. He doesn't appear, well, he kind of appears, but as a hallucination.
Yes, which is an interesting point, because he appears as a hallucination as this sort of cannibalistic man living in a food machine.
Eating protein paste.
Yeah. Like the way he talks to Martine, you can tell that, because of course, spoiler alert. I mean, honestly, if you listen to this podcast, spoilers. Martine is going insane. She is on she is on an asteroid base surrounded by huge concentrations of Sueño.
Just a bit of context. The Master has taken her and the Sueño off planet to hide it.
Yes.
And he's hidden it on this space station, and he's left her to guard it, and he's gone.
Yep.
So she's there by herself, surrounded by the Sueño.
Yes.
And it's hard to tell when you're listening to it. You know that she's hallucinating, but you think that the Ood is real that's with her.
Dude. So she keeps like slipping in and out of hallucinations. She keeps seeing her mother and also the Master as Mr. Ormond, or this sort of weird Cockney character that is trying to, he wants to eat her.
Yeah.
And so you can tell that she knows in her mind that there's clearly something wrong with Mr. Ormond.
Mm-hmm.
And this builds to a point where, with enough of her sanity as she can muster, she puts herself in a spacesuit and jettisons herself from the base to get away from the Sueño. And she has a call on the radio to Cassie, and Cassie says she's coming to get her. And then it cuts to another transmission, this time from the Master. This is a real transmission, who says, no, Cassie's not coming to get you. And you're done for.
Yeah. And it's basically to the point where you realize that she is the most switched on, the most together. She poses probably the biggest threat in terms of waking other people up to like the reality of what's going on. So he has to get rid of her, but in a way that doesn't arouse suspicion.
Well,
and also quite a cruel way.
He seems genuinely surprised that she's put on a spacesuit and has gone walking out into space. But the thing is, he would have killed her regardless.
Yes.
But the thing is, in episode 2, when the Oods are going a bit crazy, the Ood tells her, you will die screaming in darkness.
I was incorrect. I have something to inform you of.
Go on.
You will die screaming in darkness. Goodbye.
And she does. She dies floating in space, screaming. I was listening to it last night, and I was listening to it on speakers because I was doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner Claire came out, and she was just like, that was fucked.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it doesn't even end there. Like it because it takes like it so long for just focus on this one woman being tormented. It's so drawn out. It's so tortuous. And then it gets to the end of that, and you're not even finished. We haven't even reached the end game of this story.
We find that sort of episode 3 takes place at the same time as episode 4. And that's another thing I want to bring up. Like, the Ood knew how she was going to die. Did it know that because of the Master's plan, or because of just the psychic abilities of the Ood?
It's all part of the creepy.
It's all part of the creepy. But
adventure.
it's how she died. She died screaming alone in darkness.
Well, as you've taken the highly unwise step of launching yourself into space, I'll leave you to it. Goodbye, my dear.
Mr. Ormond? Mr. Ormond, you can't just leave me here!
Attention. Life support systems in suit are failing.
Governor Terramon and her people are coming to Callous to try and take the Sueño and the mine away. And it ends up in a huge battle. The miners take up arms to fight, and then the Ood come in. And the Ood suddenly start attacking Terramon's men. But it doesn't end there, because then the Ood start attacking the miners as well.
Yeah.
They tend to shy away from the last moments being direct in this audio, I noticed. Like, when Cassie dies, you hear it down the end of a walkie-talkie. And like when various other characters die, you hear it in the distance. The only person you hear die straight, like basically screaming into nothingness, was Martine. Which I think her death has more impact because, as I said, she's the only non-morally dubious character.
Yeah.
Like, she's married to Cassie, but Cassie has done some pretty awful things while being in charge of the planet.
Yeah, we've sort of heard that Martine is all about that. Like, we should have just lived on an algae farm.
Yep.
And just been happy together, rather than all this. And Cassie's like, oh, but we're rich. And it's like, yeah, but we don't need to be. Like, we could just have each other. Like, yeah, she's the ideal sort of love interest character hero that you root for. She just wants to live her life. She doesn't have any grand desires on anything.
But we're rich! We're a success! I think we'd be happier servicing an algae farm and safer.
So it ends with everyone on Callous dead.
Yeah.
All of Terramon's men. Terramon is dead. Terramon knew that the Master knew something, and so was torturing him for a long period of time, which he didn't really care about. He was just like, oh, it's just a normal day for me.
Yeah, and then we find out why he's been doing this and what his actual goal of this entire plot was.
Yeah, it takes all of the Sueño, and he meets on this deserted planet Narvin, who is a Time Lord. He is the coordinator of the Celestial Intervention Agency, basically Gallifrey's spies.
And he's been helping the war effort.
An officially sanctioned Gallifreyan war effort.
Yeah, to deny the Daleks Sueño and to give it to the Time Lords.
Yep.
I think that's what he mentions, doesn't he? Not only is this about giving it to the Time Lords, it's denying it to your enemies at the same time.
Poisoning the well.
Yeah.
And also, the main reason he did it, because of course he's helping Gallifrey. He was resurrected to fight in the Time War, but he did this because Narvin gives him a chameleon arch.
Yes.
So that he can go. So that the War Master can turn into a human and disappear.
Yeah. Which is great. I love that Narvin does hand that over willingly to him. Considering they resurrected him to fight for them, if I was then like, and now I'm giving you an out.
The thing is, if we were to get into the Gallifrey audios, there's a lot of infighting and factionalism on Gallifrey during the war. And the difference between, there's a very stark difference between the War Room and the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
The CIA is kind of acting on their own. It's, run by Narvin and Romana with Leela, whereas the War Room they're doing all the mad shit that fucking Rassilon wants them to do. Like the War Room are the ones who brought Rassilon back, okay? We don't want any of that.
Yeah. I do love this War Master thing with the war effort, aiding the war effort, because he does in a lot of his stories. It is about him, to some extent, aiding in the war in some capacity, trying to come up with a way to end it.
Well, he kind of, in one story, I think he actually says he feels it's his duty.
Yeah.
He feels it's more of his duty than the Doctor does. Because the Doctor actively rails against the Time War. He wants nothing to do with the Time War until he finally regenerates into the War Doctor.
Yeah.
But then, of course, that's a whole other story involving other Time Lords. That's not this podcast. There's a lot of things that are not this podcast. This podcast is a very narrow purview.
Right now, not too far from here, there's a war raging. A war so fierce that people are called upon to sacrifice not just themselves, but their entire history. I wonder what they'd make of you.
One thing I do want to talk about that scene where he's meeting Narvin.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I will go into Narvin, because Narvin is an amazing character. I think it was John Dorney said, one of his notes said, Narvin, a cockroach.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah. Yeah.
It amuses me to see you so miserable.
Of course it does.
So, he's on this planet with Narvin, and the planet is totally barren, apart from a single rose.
Yes, that's right.
And Narvin says, "Oh, that's very interesting. Maybe it could be experimented on. We could find out why it does that." And the master said, "You harm one petal on that rose, and I will kill you."
Mm.
The master appreciates beauty.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful moment for his character.
Yeah,
because there is that breadcrumb of, see, it's not all bad. Like, he's willing to kill for this beautiful single rose on the thing. And, it does give you those moments where it draws you back into him. He may have just been a mass murderer who's killed an entire colony of people just to get some minerals for a war. But he still appreciates the beauty of a rose. He isn't completely a monster.
Yeah.
There's something about him still.
There are some things in this universe even I won't condone.
This from a man who has destroyed entire planets, wiped out whole civilizations.
They were dull planets. Dull civilizations. That rose is beautiful.
Well, it's about moralities, isn't it? It's about what someone's, like, how far you're going to go. Because, I was thinking a good point about having the Ood in this story is the way that everyone treats the Ood.
Yep.
And the master treats humans and the Ood exactly the same. But he treats humans and the Ood the same way the humans treat Ood.
Yep.
They're expendable. They're just animals. They're useful. That's it.
Yeah. And I guess also the approach of this is that the Time War is this huge big thing that's going to destroy everything if one side doesn't win.
Yes.
And so it's basically like I'm willing to sacrifice anything to win this war. Like, we just have to. It's just the be-all and end-all of the universe.
Yeah, which is why Gallifrey want the master on their side, because he has no compunctions about
doing this. Just, what's your next mission? Go to this planet and get this Sueño. We don't care how you do it. And he goes and
you have carte blanche. Like,
but he could just go in there and kill them all and drag it all out of the mine, like with the Ood, if he really wanted to.
Well, yeah, he's disappointed that Martine dies because he wanted her to carry the Sueño onto his TARDIS.
Yes, that's right. And now he has to do it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't just go in there and kill them all. He plays his game. He has fun.
I say, look at that bread. Oh, one of my favourite smells.
I want to talk quickly about Herschel, because when Herschel snuck onto the ship,
yes,
and the master finds him in the hold, and the master starts walking towards him, Herschel calls for help, and Martine runs in, and the master says, very wise choice. Like, very wise move. Because if Martine hadn't come in, he would have killed him.
Yes.
Oh, God! Don't kill me! Don't kill me!
What is that?
Smart move.
Yeah, there are those moments. That's the other thing I like about this, is he isn't, even though he's old, he isn't feeble in any means. This master kills so many people just being in the room with them.
Yep. Well, and he survives this torture, like this horrific torture. He's being, electrocuted. Well, there's one bit, send your boys back in. At least they've got a decent right hook.
Yeah. This is, I think, one of the reasons why both of us really feel strongly about this master, and he's right up there as one of our favorites. Dangerous, manipulative, like he's the
quietly savage.
The whole package master, I think.
Yeah.
100% master, this one. And Jacobi's voice is just phenomenal.
Like butter, isn't it? Oh.
And his laugh, I love his master laugh.
He genuinely takes joy in his laughter.
Yes.
This story was written by James Goss and Guy Adams, both really amazing writers, love their stuff. It was all directed by Scott Hancock, who is an amazing director, writer, producer, currently the script editor for the TV series. It's just great stuff. Like, when Big Finish make great things, they make great things.
Yeah. Okay, it's time to test. Were you attending carefully? Right. How many people does the master call, and what blackmail/guilt trip does he use on them?
Okay, so he calls Elliot King and tells him that his wife never got the medical treatments. He calls Cassie king, and he offers to help, doesn't he?
We do not hear. It ends with her picking the phone up.
Right.
So we never hear what he actually says to her, which is interesting.
But of course, the next episode starts with them on good terms, him having helped.
Yes.
Okay, he doesn't call Martine. He doesn't call Jacques. Or does he call Jacques? I don't know. I need the countdown clock going now.
He calls 4 people, so you got 2. Who do you think the other 2 are?
One of them's Herschel.
Yep.
He doesn't call Terramon, so it has to be Jacques.
Yes. Do you know what he then says to Herschel and Jacques?
Oh, what does he? Oh, he says to Jacques. He says to Jacques something that makes him want to sell his shares. I remember that. He gets the whole town riled up. And he says to Herschel... He just offers Herschel money, doesn't he? He offers Herschel how to, make it big.
So you have it round the wrong way.
Oh.
Herschel is a kleptomaniac, and that's the blackmail he uses to make Herschel sell his shares and rile up the town.
Right, okay.
Jacques had a male nurse kill his dying father.
That's right!
To get the inheritance, and then Jacques skips out with all the inheritance, leaving the male nurse to be arrested.
Yes. He knows so much about everyone, doesn't
Yes.
he?
Yeah, it's terrifying. Because that just happened on another planet.
Yep.
Presumably with different people.
Yep, long time ago.
Yeah.
Elliot King?
Good evening, Mr. Herschel. Good evening, Mr. Jacques.
Good evening, Miss King.
Who is this?
I'm a friend. I would like to offer you hope. Will you allow me to help you?
Okay, next one. What words and phrases does the master use to describe the afternoon tea in the colony saloon?
Oh, God.
I warned you.
You did warn me this one would be worse. No, I have no idea.
No, you don't know? Oh, I thought you would have been all over this with your wanting to do the reading of it. He says that scones are criminal to miss. The tea is positively murderous. The scones need to be massacred, and the tea is left viciously in the pot. And then he admits that the scones aren't actually very good.
I thought it would be criminal not to partake of it.
Criminal?
You're positively murderous. Oh, pull up a chair. There's a spare scone to massacre, and some tea left viciously in the pot.
What time do they start torturing the master in the mornings? How do they torture him? And how does the master suggest they pass the time while he's being tortured?
Oh, okay. So they start at 9 or 7. 7. They start at 7. Okay, I know they break for lunch at 12. They use the cattle prod and they electrocute him. And he says, could they put on some music or maybe even an audiobook?
Yes, and you mentioned it earlier, but they also beat him physically.
Yep.
But yes, correct.
Hooray.
I do love that. How about an audio?
Yeah, just an audiobook, anything.
Aren't you getting bored? I am terribly, terribly bored.
What are the state-sanctioned interrogator's rights according to intergalactic law? And what advice was the master giving the interrogator?
His rights are, I don't know, a new cattle prod every week. A break. What is it? I can, tell you what, I'll just read the retail award, which is anything more than 7 hours but less than 10 hours. You get 2 10-minute breaks and a half-hour break in the middle.
No shifts in excess of 2 hours, and he gets free physiotherapy. He's been advising the man to join a union.
So he's not all bad.
Yeah.
The torturer's union. I love that.
Yep. Yeah, state-sanctioned interrogator's rights.
No, break time, is it? Oh, quite right, too. He's been working very hard.
All right, last one. What other quote from another regeneration does the master use?
Oh, I always dress for the occasion.
Yes, that's correct.
One must always dress for the occasion.
So I didn't do that well this time.
No, these ones were harder
Well, you need to be paying attention, and especially for someone like us who we listen to audios while we're doing other things.
Yes. You need to be attending carefully, Ciarán.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought you'd get the afternoon tea one just because it's such a fantastic
I did
line.
hear it, but yeah, no, yeah, that's on me.
Where there is prosperity, scones follow.
Okay. Amber, what did we learn?
We learnt that the Master is helping in the war effort for Gallifrey. We learnt that, yes, in particular, he's dealing with Narvin and receiving work from him.
Poor person.
He's now in possession of a chameleon arch.
Yes. Which, for people who don't know, like, surely you should know that, it is a device that turns a Time Lord into a human and stores their Time Lord essence in a fob watch.
See Series 3 of the New Who.
Yes.
We learnt that this Master takes his time to have fun with his schemes.
He really does. He really enjoys it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't need to do all this, but he does. Like, he didn't need to spend 10 years tormenting a guy with a ringing phone, but bitch does.
The thing is, I get the feeling that this didn't take as long for the Master. I get the feeling that all of this was being done from within the TARDIS in the time vortex.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I don't think that he was actually waiting 10 years to...
Mind you, then he could have. I mean, he
could have just been doing other stuff.
Yeah.
We learnt that he has seemingly eyes and ears everywhere, or he's just very efficient about information gathering.
He seems to be, doesn't he? He seems to be a lot more together than any other Master we've seen so far.
I think maybe this is a good example of the Master with structure and a clear focus.
I think it's quite interesting because I'm pretty sure he says at one point, and I wrote this down, he admits to things not going to plan. So at one point his plan does fall through, but he had a plan B.
Yep.
And you get the feeling that there was probably a plan C, D, E, F, and G. Basically, you get the feeling with this Master, the only way that this Master won't win is if the Doctor's involved. And even then, as we said before, like, if the Master is in Doctor Who, the Doctor has to win because it's the Doctor's show.
Yes.
There are stories where the Doctor is in the Master's show, in this War Master audios, the Doctor loses.
Yep.
So what else have we learned?
That the Master still enjoys the beauty of some things.
Yes. Yes, he's still he's still quite fond of the better things in life, isn't he? Where are we sitting with the body count?
So in this particular story, we lose one Elliot King, one Jacques, one Martine. We get a patrol of 2 soldiers who are voiced, and then presumably there are a few others with them. So about 6 soldiers, 1 Cassie, 1 Governor Tremaine, and then an entire colony of humans and Ood. So
oh, no.
This is our first sort of, we can't say it's in the thousands.
It's incalculable at this point.
Yes.
And I think that's fair to say with a lot of them.
But this makes its way to the top of the most deadly scheme to date, beating out Delgado's 50 daffodil kills.
Can we have like can we have like the board in Top Gear, but for Master Death?
Yeah.
Master Deaths.
Yep. So yes, it's War Master on top, followed by Delgado, then right down to less than 20 for Sim and Bruce. Sorry, Saxon and Bruce.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, Mr. Sassenby. And goodbye, Mr. Sassenby.
You shot him!
I did.
Okay, that's all for this week's episode of Please Attend Carefully. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that with each new episode you come to understand, appreciate, and maybe even obey the Master. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be updated on new episodes. Amber, how can listeners get in contact with us?
They can email us at pleaseattendcarefully@gmail.com, send us an ask on Tumblr at pleaseattendcarefully, or you can follow us on Instagram at pleaseattendcarefully.
Yep, don't forget you can also go to pzinner.com.au/shows/attend for exclusive content not available in the main feed. I've been Ciarán.
And I've been Amber. We leave you with a clue for next week's episode.
We hope you'll be tuning in. After all, it can't hurt you to listen, can it?